Okay, both recordings are going. I have not had a great day. The time in the park with Doodle was wonderful, and then I started getting a migraine and came home and I tried to sleep it off, and it took 3 hours to sleep it off, so I lost all of my stream time. And yeah, now I'm here with Ginger. But yeah, a ship post turned into something meaningful, and that just feels weird.
Okay. I'm reading your what turned into a shit post, and now looking at, let's see here. If you, yeah, yours reading Doom, how to fight, Chrono Trigger. Wait, but what are you putting in, like, the not italics, but, like, for example, you said Doom, how to fight. I don't like
Doom
Chrono Trigger. I know Chrono Trigger. Why is it Chrono Trigger? To learn the reasons why you
to
like
learn
it?
what? Yeah, the reason why you need to play it. Doom, how to
Oh, okay.
fight tooth and nail. Chrono Trigger, to
Got
learn
it.
what to
Yeah.
fight for. Super Mario 7 Stars, to learn how to cry. Pokemon X and Y, to learn who to fight for. Mass Effect, how to make friends. Dragon Age, to know your enemies. Solaris and Civ, to find a better way. Helldivers, to see what fascism for what it is. Rimworld, to learn from your mistakes. MechWarrior and Battletech, to live within your means and outside of control. Divinity 2, Dragon Knight, not Original Sin, their old game, to see what your final stand will become. Fallout 1, 2, and New Vegas, to see how to rebuild. Crusader Kings, to find how to teach the generation beyond you. XCOM 2, to keep hope in the face of tyranny. Arcanum of Magic and Steamworks, learn how to achieve balance. EVE Online, to forge ahead in the face of loss, build something new instead of what was. Tropico, to learn what to do with ultimate power, and what you would do with it. Beat Saber, to exercise your body with your mind. Vampire Therapist, therapy is important. Cyberpunk, Valhalla, Cyberpunk Bartender, because therapy is really important. Hard Space Shipbreaker. That title is so hard to pronounce. I wish they would have made it easier.
Yeah, and we even made a video on it, so you should know how to say that one.
To see what banal evil is. Anyway,
That's an impressive list, and also it makes me smile that all the Pokemon games you picked XY, but then again, everyone knows that's my favorite.
XY, you literally like I will make fun of Team Flare all day for hours on
Mm-hmm.
end. But yeah, no, I picked XY because the story teaches you how to grieve really hard.
Oh yeah, no, that I remember to this day. I think, if I remember correctly, I beat the Elite Four, at night in my bed, and it gets to the ending, because this is one I won't do spoilers, but that's just because that's how much I love this game. That
The
ending
ending
makes you
is
cry.
I'm not gonna cry. Cry a lot.
But
Like that's the whole
but it's
ending.
like but it's good. It's not. I'll only say it's not a sad cry. It's a good cry.
It's a cry
It's
with your fist up in the air, going, yes, keep going.
yeah. It's the yeah exactly. Yeah that
It is like the one time in playing all of the Pokemon games where I had to stop and go, no, the story went hard enough.
oh yeah, the story, like, we can, complain a little bit here and there, because there is some, like, I complain. Just the team, like, remember, he comes in this weird, like, cyberpunk, like, outfit, and I think, because I'm on the stream on that one, I'm like, you beat him 10 minutes ago. How did he have enough time to go back and get that? With that redonkulousness aside, I think it's also, you can confirm this, Fee. It's one of the few Pokemon games where they don't let the villain, like, get escape. From what they don't
They
say
kill
it,
him.
but yeah, if you read between the lines, they don't say he survives, so
There's
he
no reading
dies.
between the lines. They just murk him, and I'm just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, he deserves it. Yeah, like, to me, I'm like, if someone, that's also, I think, why XY is my favorite, because it peaked story wise. I can't say any of the other games, but having also, done all the Nuzlocke ones and kind of watched you through the other ones, I'm like,
No,
no,
no, no,
XY is
no,
still
no,
the
no,
best
no.
part.
It is legitimately the one time where I'm just like, no, the story went hard enough. It went hard enough.
Yeah.
I'm satisfied.
And I think this is my theory. It's a silly theory, but it's one of those, it's silly but it has purpose. And I think I've mentioned this before in previous discussions. Why Many reasons why XY is my favorite. One, and it sounds superficial as all hell, but it's deeper than you think. XY is the first mainline Pokemon game where you are allowed to customize your avatar. Yes, there is a limited selection of what you can do, but if I'm having to play it, and you especially, I'm sure, Fee, every single game where you're like, even when they let you be a boy or a girl, it's like, I have to pick the same outfit that they stick with me the whole time. But because in XY, you are allowed to, I think you can customize your clothes. I think your hairstyle. Don't quote me on that part, but it allows you to at least be you, and yet that's the whole point of a good character customator. So then it feels like you actually went on this journey, not some sprite Nintendo handed you.
Yeah. And just like like all the other games, I'm like, okay, Black and White, like good story, and I'm glad they doubled down on it with the second game. But guys, you stopped halfway,
Yeah,
and then
and
then
we,
all the other games, I'm like, okay, guys, but you got lost in the philosophical mumbo jumbo. And then
yeah,
the
and then
games
you got,
after it, I'm like, you want me to stop a bunch of rich kids who became bullies? What? I'm used to stopping world-ending events. What is this? You want me to stop the
yeah.
power company? What?
Which wait, which one was that one?
Sword and Shield.
I don't remember Sword and
You want me
Shield
to
that
stop
much.
the power company? And then Pokemon, Sun and Moon. And I'm like, you want me to stop these kids' mom
Yeah,
because she
yeah,
has an empty nest syndrome and power? Okay. But X and Y is like, no, you're stopping the end of the world through genocide, and
you're stop.
you have to reunite two beings that love each other in the most family of family ways by showing one of them the error of their ways.
You literally get to, because if we say the name, we'll get probably demonetized. You get to stop Pokemon version of man with the funny mustache.
Yes. And I'm just like, no, no, do this again. Go hard. Go hard.
Oh
Show
yeah,
me no mercy. Show me no
oh yeah.
mercy,
No,
no hesitation. Go hard.
yeah. Story wise too, and again, and this is, you and I will talk this off. This is of all the Nuzlocke videos, apart from a cute meme here and there, I keep myself away out like my voice out of it. XY is going to be the only exception, but like because also like it just feels like the reason I joke about it, but it's true. Why I have 400 plus hours in Pokemon X is because it's I feel one of the few like Pokemon mainline games where they actually thought out the post game story. Like I know you didn't utilize it much, but I used the daylights out of both the farm, the berry farm, and the battle chateau. Which anyone who's like done post game Pokemon games, it's a pain in the butt to try and level up any of the ones that weren't your main team. The battle chateau, I know you didn't use it much because Nuzlocke rules kind of makes that part of the game really stressful. But non-Nuzlocke, oh my god, it is a godsend because one, you don't have to just battle random Pokemon because trainer fights give you better XP, and you actually can like I don't know how much you dug into it, but it allows you, for lack of a better term, kind of pick your difficulty. You can go up to one of the NPCs. I forget if it's the butler or the maid, but one of the two, and you can basically say, "Yeah, I want someone who's going to give me when I fight them a lot of money," or you can. There's another version where it's like, "I want to battle people that give me a lot that are a challenge." So it lets you like then kind of. It's a fun way to complete the Pokedex and like evolve your Pokemon.
Anyway,
Yeah. This isn't a Pokemon podcast. This is a Warhammer podcast.
so that is how my week has been. I other than us now being here to re-record Greenskins because of my total failure in the audio department, I'm literally looking right now to make sure both of the red lights are on.
Yeah, I'm even recording. We both though went to conventions over the past weekend, so there's that.
Yeah, I did go to Gen Con. You can go see all of that on my blog on my main channel.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm so happy you. I know. I'm so happy you finally did a like a convention vlog video, and I look forward to you making more. Also, it was so weird in the best way possible. So weird seeing Moon. I've seen pictures of Moon before, but I am so used to him. I even made a comment. I'm so used to him being a pony pointing a gun at a book So seeing
We got those comments all freaking week. It's just like, why is everyone upset? Because Moon isn't a pony pointing a gun at a book.
Yeah, like again, I've seen pictures and I've met him in person, so I know what he looks like. But it's just you're just so used to one thing, but it's still great and it's marvelous. Like one of the few things that I would love to hang out with Moon if more possible because he's just for me, and that's also why I like when I have the opportunity to listen to him DM because he just has a personality and way of thinking that I just thoroughly enjoy. Like his quote in one of them was like, what was it? I think I put it in communionisms. They're not good hookers. I was like, I never would have thought that one, but
Anyway,
yeah. Let's continue. Though isn't the one last bit? Isn't Moon going to be also DMing the Warhammer?
yes, in the description right now, there is a sign up form. As of time of recording, I have 5 people who've said, yes, I want to play. I am doing interviews in September, or I'm doing interviews starting at the end of this month, so we can have all the artwork done by October. And under absolute ideal conditions, having talked this over with Moonhoof at Gen Con, if we can get the funding, everyone's character will have a VTuber avatar around the table.
Okay, now now there's several categories of VTuber. Are we talking PNG? Are we talking 2D or
Live 2D?
Which version? Ooh, that as someone who, on the side for fun, I've been learning Blender and learning rigging. That ain't easy and that ain't cheap.
No, it's about $300.
Even 2D stuff.
It's about $300 to $500 a person.
Yeah.
We're gonna have PNGs guaranteed to start with. The PNG tuber thing for everyone is guaranteed to start with, but the full live 2D is $300 to $500 per person. We need to get the funding for that because I want to put on an amazing show for all of you guys. We've upgraded the virtual tabletop technology, so we're moving over to tabletop simulator with actual physics, actual dice rolling, all that stuff, even actual like physical character sheets in the virtual tabletop that we can pick up, look at, enlarge, and all that stuff. Now I want to upgrade the actual like avatar experience of the individual characters, and the next step in that upgrade is going to be VTubers, like full on, live 2D rigs.
I'm fully aware. I'm a fan of like HoloLive and especially the one Iron Mouse belongs to, but yeah, so I'm aware of.
Now, I personally am not becoming a VTuber. I'm still going to be, using a camera, but on Wednesday night,
it's definitely. I could definitely see how it helps to add the immersion to it, especially for this, because even there are YouTubers, VTubers. There's several categories. There's ones who don't even show their hands, and then you have some who literally have like done a face reveal from the beginning, and they just like to have a VTube model for these. They just don't feel like having the camera on.
Yeah, but it's also like I understand people at a tabletop game want to be able to eat. You want to be able to eat, you want to be able to drink, you want to be able to get up and go to the bathroom, you want to be able to do all these other things while you're at the game itself. And I get that.
Yes, love you, Fee, but whether you're the DM, GM, or you're a player, all your games go for many, many hours.
Yes, and many, many years. So if you're looking for a tabletop game, guys, the Red Hearse game is still going off stream and has been for like 6 years, 5-6 years at this point. The Fallout Equestria game that we're ending in a couple weeks. This is its 7th year.
Though, didn't you jokingly?
The Here There Be Dragons game is my shortest game ever on stream, and it lasted for 19 months with a total of 40 episodes. That is 40 sessions in a year and a half. That's not terrible considering holidays and people getting sick, and we're still hosting 40 sessions. That's
and considering also like without getting to the weeds of it, you had an issue where at some point like the captain, the person playing the captain had to leave for a bit, which which I'm very aware of the story because it was nice with that one. I could follow most of it because the problem with I say problem in air quotes with Fallout Equestria is like I kind of know the story because like I've done your audiobooks and all this, but like I don't know the full story. The nice thing with Here There Be Dragons, because one, I also did the character videos. I knew that, but because you started it when I like was fully aware of you, I got to actually go along on that journey for the most part, which was very fun.
Yeah,
But to go back to the
that's why
Warhammer
we
thing,
only
oh,
had
sorry.
40 sessions, is because we had a 10-week period where I was looking for a new captain, and that missed several months. But with the way this session is going to be set up, like if somebody just says they have to bow out, we will have someone to step in and replace them the next week. And we're not going to be doing the we're not doing what we did for Dead Tree, where when someone dies, we dismiss you from the table. That's not what we're doing anymore. It's we're picking the best people for the game who are prepared to play. And if your character dies, we're just gonna let you make a new one, okay?
Yeah, I guess from what we've learned enough, this is a world where unless you're lucky as a god, or whatever, you don't have a long lifespan. While like with the Fallout and Here There Be Dragons, it felt like if you weren't dumb about it, your character could live probably long. Though, question related to the Warhammer: are you going to be pretty much within reason? All races are on the table, or are you kind of limiting it just out of curiosity?
Right now I can say this: we have a races of order is what or if you make a really creative character, at Gen Con we were jokingly talking about a Skaven paladin of Sigmar, and Moon was so taken with the idea that he might actually be making that as an NPC to come confuse all of us. And I'm just like, wait, you mean to tell me that we're all gonna see a rat man and go kill the Skaven, and he's gonna go Sigmar, and we're gonna be like, did the Skaven just summon Holy Fire of Sigmar? Yep. I don't know how to treat that right now. I need an adult.
Though, now, okay, so in theory, as long as you don't go like, from what I've gotten, this will be your air quotes typical like D&D group where in theory you could have a halfling, an elf, and a dwarf in theory all be in the same party.
Okay, I'm gonna read what is on the Google form right now, and then we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes because we've spent
Yep,
17 minutes getting to the meat and potatoes. So
which is quick for us.
it's quick for us. As of right now on the form, I have a Kislev Ice Witch who has a bear for a friend. That's my character.
I was wondering what that art was.
I have a lizard man who thinks he's not a lizard man and is having
Ooh,
species dysphoria. I
I like it.
I have a dwarf. I have a dwarven outlaw who stole a runecaster book because he wanted to be a runecaster that badly. I have a halfling. By the way,
Oh, Team Halfling.
by the way, yeah, Team Halfling. I have a halfling, who is who wants to be the greatest chef in all of the Elven kingdoms.
Ooh.
By the way, the dwarf's name is Ungrim Ungak, which Ungak is the dwarven word for this is shit.
My assessment, umgak.
And
Without going into too much detail, because we went so much and because hashtag Team Halflings, because I'm sure we'll have a whole episode to elves. What, on average, what is elven cuisine considered? Higher, lower, and about the same level as halfling cuisine?
Lord of the Rings turned up to 12. So it's all vegetarian stuff, but it tastes absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, okay. So like again, if we're gonna make the comparison on the same level, for lack of a better term, of halflings.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then we also have I'm quoting this. This is verbatim. John
Oh, here we go.
Jacob Jingleheimer Smith.
Is that their name?
That is their
or are they just
character name, John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith.
Anything else about them?
Nope, I just have a name. They didn't actually fill out the what is this character part. That's just what they put, John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith. And then the last one
Mhm.
is a Bretonnian peasant farmer named Adrin. He is literally just a guy who was levied by a local knight to go kill some goblins and just got left behind.
I'm really tempted, Fee, depending on like what day you pick on this and before the deadline, I might submit a character.
It is
depending on my...
it is going to be Wednesday night starting at 9 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern every Wednesday, no questions asked. So those of you on the West Coast, hey, you're really fortunate because we're starting at like 6 o'clock your time. Those of you on you in Europe, I hope you like late nights just in the middle of the week, but I'm sorry for the late night in the middle of the week, but I got to run with the time Moon's giving me.
Or they all join VOD gang.
Yeah.
Though I might, even if I don't, Fee, it also
which reminds me, we need to get all the VODs.
Yeah.
We need to get all the VOD. Every VOD you have needs to be uploaded because I need to get them all out.
Yeah, I do.
I've
been uploaded. Yeah, I need to continue on that. I have them uploaded, but I've been keeping up to date on them. I will transfer them over. Though even if I don't end up joining it permanently, I would love to be at least a guest character as part of this. Would be fun. But speaking of this world, all right, let's get into the green guys.
Are you sure you want to get into the green guys?
Yeah, I'm not, they're not my favorite, but I would love to talk more about my favorite race, but
okay,
I
also have to stand corrected. John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith is just a humble Bretonnian farmer. That's all he is. He's just a humble Bretonnian farmer. and Aiden is the Bretonnian peasant who was drafted by a local knight and just got left behind. So he's just a random levied peasant who just went, crap! I gotta fix this. Anyway. But we also have a lizard man who has who has species dysphoria, and I'm just like, I'm in.
Which is, without going into too much detail, I love Hellsing's one of my favorite animes, and both the OVA and the anime, one of the things I love that they go great. It's because everyone remembers Alucard because he overshadows her and everything, but I'm like, I love the plot point. It's more kind of in the anime, not as much in the manga, but still is like Ceres Victoria's struggle with like her having to accept she's no longer human. There's scenes in the anime where she's eating food and like Alucard literally gives her shit for it, be like, you're not human anymore. But I'm like, thank you. That's that struggle I just find very fascinating, again, if done right. All right, let's talk about the green guys, because I can actually say guys because I remember bits and pieces. So this is going to be a strange ride because I remember parts of this and other parts I'm not going to remember. So yay!
All right. Well, I know you probably blocked the squigs from your mind, but so as I said, we recorded this once already. So this isn't Ginger's first time with Greenskins. I'm sorry about that. That's on me. But let's get started, shall we? The quote is, "I'm gonna stomp them to dust. I'm gonna grind their bones. I'm gonna pile them up in a big fire and roast their meat. I'm gonna bash their heads, break their faces, jump up and down on the bits to the left, and then I'm actually gonna get mean." Grimgor Ironhide goes hard.
Yeah, that is pretty brutal, not gonna lie.
So, Greenskins arrived at some point during humanity's Bronze Age, bearing Iron Age weapons, which, as you can imagine, didn't go well.
Yeah, so it's the equivalent, for lack of a better term, someone with World War II technology coming into World War I.
Yeah, or why the Romans beat the Greeks, because the Greeks were still using bronze spears and the Romans showed up with iron swords. Doesn't go well. So the Greenskins arrived and they hit they hit the dwarves during the height of the Dwarven Empire, just after the great grudge, the great war with the elves was over. And yeah, this is why the dwarves hate the Greenskins. We're gonna go over all that. They just started attacking, and the dwarves just started losing keeps and holds. Dwarven slayers are founded because Greenskins nearly destroyed their entire way of life and existence. Orcs attack just showed up. And it was found that orcs are actually giant plants that reproduce by spores. Orcs destroy whatever and take whatever they want. They don't create anything of their own for the most part. And orcs are the reason why the Empire exists. Believe it or not.
Wait, what? Also, I ranted about this last time we recorded this, and I'll make a note of it. You said the Lord, they just suddenly appear, and from what you've researched, there's nothing pinpointing saying a god or chaos or something created them. In the lore, it just says they appear.
They came
right?
over they came from the east over the World's Edge Mountains. No one, including the orcs, knows where they came from. And
are they?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, are they the only race that we're gonna cover in this that has this? Oh, because this is the ranch compressed. Anytime in any piece of media, whether it be modern, fantasy, I don't care what, where a writer or writers just say, and then it just happened. Sorry, that's lazy writing. There's even in a book called How Not to Write a Novel. One of the rules is don't write, and somehow they made it. This is that same category. Somehow they exist. Like, no, give me a reason, but I understand there's nothing we can do about that.
It is believed that either the old ones accidentally sent them here through clerical error, or they just crashed on several of their spores just crashed on an asteroid and no one paid attention.
Oops! I accidentally.
Hey, Bob, did you send those greenskin dudes to the world of Moore? You mean Malleus? No, I mean Moore. Bob, I sent them to Malleus. Bob, that's a big fuck up. You know that, right? That's kind of what it's believed happened with the old ones, is they just had a bureaucratic error.
Someone put a 1 when they meant to put a 0, or something.
Someone meant to put MO and put MA, and that's just how it went.
Someone pressed the wrong key on the keyboard. Whoops.
Press any key except 2. Presses 2.
Yeah, pretty much.
But orcs are the reason why the Empire exists, is because Sigmar had to unify the realms of man as the warrior king and lead them to destroy the orcs and drive them out of human lands. And he founded the Empire on the basis that this giant fuck-off hammer the dwarves made me is for breaking greenskins.
Oh, okay. So okay, I can see now more of that detail about Sigmar. Okay, yeah, cool.
And the giant, by the way, the warhammer literally made because Sigmar saved the dwarven high king from orcs. So orcs, it's your fault. The warhammer Galmaraz exists.
I'm trying to think of an interesting real world comparison to this, but I do find it at least story-wise interesting.
The Sword of Charlemagne exists because Charlemagne wanted to drive the Normans out of France. He's just like, I need to kill more Normans. And then about 400 years pass with several minor greenskin wars happening, but for the most part, the Empire rises up and beats them back.
Oh, hold on. So, with terminology, what is a wa?
So a wa is when the orcs get organized. Basically, the orcs are always looking to fight. They have this innate need to fight, whether it be each other or someone else. They do not care. And so once an orc is recognized as the leader, he forms a Wa, which is the orc word for war, and proceeds to go try to fight something that isn't orcs. So it can take the same orc tribe can be sitting there fighting itself for 50, 60, 100 years and never form a Wa because no one gets strong enough to be the leader.
Right, okay.
Or the leader could show up on day one, beat the shit out of all of his competitors, and say, "We going on a Wa now."
Okay.
Um,
Very survival of the fittest, for lack of a better term.
extremely survival of the fittest. Gork and Mork just find it funny. The orcish gods are just like, it's funny. What do you mean? It's funny that orc just cut that one's head off, and then the other orc snuck up behind him and stabbed him in the butt.
Okay, and you've now mentioned them. So there are orcish gods, the two
Yes.
you just mentioned.
Gork and Mork. Now I have to look this up because I get them confused. I'm not a very good orc.
Well, yeah, because
So
from what I remember, yeah, you have to go on.
I have to say this correctly, or every orc player in the entire world will come find me and beat my ass.
It's a nice ass, but go on.
So, Gork is brutally cunning, and Mork is cunningly brutal.
Pay attention. Knowing the difference may save your life.
Knowing the difference may save your life, because you might think an orc might be cunning, but then again, you might think an orc might be brutal, and it all depends on which of the two orc gods he screams about the most.
Now, okay, cunning in an orc sense, from what little I remember that didn't get purged from last time. What defines cunning? Because we think cunning of like, ooh, that was smart. Like, ooh,
It's
that chess move.
It's literally that was smart, but it's always in terms of if you can't just beat someone with raw power, you outsmart them or outspeed them, or you're just more agile, or all orc archers subscribe to the idea that they're more cunning than their brothers.
So cunning in an orc sense is never, again, I will always use World War II. It's not like, ooh, someone invented, give me a second here so I can give the comparison. It's not cunning in warfare of like, ooh, you figured out how to, I forget where you get to the side of an enemy or, discover new tactics. No, it's just in that heat of that moment. You're not going to have the next, insert brilliant military strategist from war here.
Correct. Orcs, if orcs think they can beat you by raw power, they will just barrel into you with raw power and try to overwhelm you with a combination of numbers and the sheer amount of strength in their arms. If orcs don't think they can beat you that way, expect to fight the fantasy / Renaissance equivalent of Vietnam. Because
oh god.
So to give an example from a video game, a lot of players who play dwarves expect people who are playing orcs when they play multiplayer to play the game like the dwarves do. Well, if the orcs play the game like the dwarves do, the orcs lose.
Right.
So I found this to be absolutely hilarious, seeing a dwarf player fight a greenskin player for his very first time. The battle starts, and there's not a single orc on the map that's visible.
And wait, was this tabletop or a video game?
This is Total War Warhammer, the video game. Not a single orc on the map is visible. Not one.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got his dwarven battle line with his artillery, but he didn't bring any of the faster, quote, fast for a dwarf units. So he has no scouts. He has no way of going and finding them, and he's like, what do I do? And while he's trying to figure out what he needs to do, the orcs are moving through the trees or using the hilltops to block line of sight or whatever they can to prevent the dwarves from seeing what they're doing. And then suddenly his artillery are under attack, and as he reacts to his artillery being under attack, then the real greenskin mob comes out, and now his melee dwarves are caught between either helping their artillery or fighting the front line, or fighting all the orcs that just came out of nowhere. So if orcs can't beat you with raw strength, they're actually really intelligent. They're just don't talk like they're very smart.
Okay. So okay, now that this is actually one thing we didn't cover last when we first did this was okay. My image and I think most people's image who have any affair think that orcs are dumb. They just like you say, it's the equivalent of like book, for lack of a better term, book smarts versus street smarts. They're very book dumb, but from what you're telling me, they're much more street smarts, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
And especially war smarts, I think would be a better term to use. They're very smart.
So when the orcs kind of get the hint that they can't get through the Blackfire Mountains and they can't get through the World's Edge Mountains to go back and attack the human empire very well. But they get the idea that the human empire has trouble marching armies through those same mountains. So what do?
Right.
They invade everything that's around those mountains. And so there's a human kingdom called Talea. It is effectively Venice in terms of they hire lots of mercenaries, they have tons of money, that kind of idea. Talea got an idea of how to deal with the orcs that is exceptionally smart, or as the orcs would put it, very cunning.
Mm-hmm.
The Talaean general marched over, saw the orcish army, and noticed that they would fight each other.
Right.
So he literally paid half the orcs to fight the other half. And then, with his very cunning plan, he paid the orcs to go fight more orcs. And therefore, the Talaeans won without ever having to fight a single orc themselves.
The race that doesn't need an it has very very meme of, it's Godzilla. I just need one like and I'll destroy Tokyo. One like, I got
one like and I'll break the San Francisco Bridge. Just give me a reason.
Yeah, one like by you. All right, here we go. Same energy.
Did you say I need to atomic breath Hiroshima? Give me a like. That's literally what the orcs are like.
Yep.
The second big invasion of the orcs was by an orc named Unguth the Vile. And he's called the Vile because he was known to spit roast humans and cook them over an open fire. That's what this man is known for.
Mm-hmm. We definitely need to put a little bit of a content warning on this one, V.
The siege of a place called Monte Callisto.
Yeah.
The Talaeans, they hire mercenaries. That's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But they see how the orcs are treating anyone they capture. Whether it be a farmer or a soldier, it doesn't matter. The orcs are raiding, pillaging, and eating everyone. Because the orcs don't consider humans... The orcs don't consider even other orcs to be off the menu.
Which reminds me because of except halflings are the only things they don't eat because halflings to them taste bad.
Halflings taste bad. Halfling food, great. Halfling tastes bad. So they're laying siege to the city, and this garrison is only 500 men. But there is a ship who can get people out, in and out. And either corsairs from Araby or Vampire Coast undead pirates attacked the supply ships, leaving...
Hold on a second. Hold on a feet. Pump the brakes. Say that last one again about the ships.
So corsairs from Araby, that is what is effectively the Warhammer equivalent of the Tripoli coast / Saudi Arabia type Aladdin stuff. So Corsair pirates from Araby or vampire pirates from Saratoga. Who are literally lead undead undead crews of pirates.
The idea of vampire pirates, without going into detail, Fee, do vampires in the Warhammer world, does the sun make them go bye-bye?
Nope! It makes them uncomfortable.
Oh, okay, that makes a whole lot more sense because I went for the de facto. I do like worlds where it's like, okay, so like where sun makes you uncomfy, but you don't die. Okay, that makes a whole lot more sense. How you could have vampire sailors. Okay, continue on with the story.
So vampire pirates, no, they don't die from the sun. There are certain very specific types of vampires that only come out at night. They're the big, ugly monstrosity ones. The ones that can pass for human, no, they can go out during the day. The sun just makes them really uncomfortable.
Otherwise known as goths.
But anyway.
Sorry, that joke wrote itself.
So with a single vessel left and a garrison of only 500 men versus an army of literally 100,000 greenskins.
Yeah.
The Talayans looked at them and said, "We can't supply you. We cannot pay you. What do we do?" On that day, the Talayan general died. He died from stress. And his daughter, who is literally named Mona Lisa.
Not a translation. That is her name.
Monnalissa. Mona Lisa stepped forward, looked at everyone and said, "We cannot pay you. We cannot supply you. If the orcs get within these walls, we are doomed. There are scantly barely 500 of you. What will you do?" And one by one, the mercenaries said, "I will die before a single orc steps into this place."
Let's go.
And they went way too hard. Monte Costello did not fall to Unguth the Vile. They killed him, and the walls were so thick with the corpses of greenskins that when they repaired the walls, they just buried the corpses inside the mortar because there was nowhere else to put that many corpses.
I'm getting Attack on Titan vibes right now.
When the Empire finally got there to give them a relief force, Mona Lisa died the day the relief force arrived. The orc horde broke and scattered, and what they found defending the walls of a city were just 25 halberdiers.
Quick summary of what those are.
Men with halberds.
What's a halberd?
A halberd is a polearm that's generally used for police work in Renaissance and medieval times. It has an axe, a hammer, and a pike on it. So you have a pike on the top, a hammer on the backside, an axe on the front. And the reason why it's used for police work is you have the axe that can be used to chop at people or chop through a building that's on fire to help with firefighting. You have the hammer that can be used on the backswing to catch people off guard. It's very good at breaking weapons. It's also really good, useful as a tool for just hammering stuff into place. So if you need to hammer a barricade into place real quick, if you need to set up, if you need to do field repairs on a house or something, if you need to pitch a tent, the hammer on a halberd's really good for that. And then you have the pike for anti-cavalry purposes. And lastly, the pole is generally made with these long metal slabs that are nailed into the sides of the wood to give it reinforcing, because you can use 5 halberdiers in a street to hold back a crowd.
Ooh, that okay. We'll definitely need to dig into more about that when
It's one of the most ingenious weapons of the medieval period.
Yeah. That again, because we're talking more on orcs, but that's just a very fascinating. Like, is there a real world equivalent of that thing? Because it sounds
halberd.
In theory,
it's literally it's like in the real world. This is what we equipped night watchmen with since about the 9th century up until the 17th and 18th century, when we started doing full replacement of pike with just gunpowder. We just equipped them with halberds. because it was just really useful to have when you didn't have a separate fire department and you didn't have a separate police department and you didn't have a separate town garrison. You just had the town guard. Well, if we just give them halberds and some armor and give them like a banner or a tabard across their chest that says they are of authority, yeah, no, you basically have a town guards. Like I hate this. This is the one thing. I'm going on a side tangent, and I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
One of the things I hate about fantasy tabletop games really badly is when GMs have the town guard show up with sword and board. No. In a fantasy setting, if you have town guard, you don't have a separate fire department, you don't have a separate police department, they do it all. They show up, the captain might have a sword and board, but the rest of the dudes with him have halberds. Because it means I only need to make one weapon, and they can fight a fire, they can create a barricade, they can push a crowd back, and they can fight people and arrest people. Also, they're anti-cav. All at once.
Yeah, damn, that's a pretty. I agree with you on both that, but again, just this weapon tool is very. I know it's a little thing, but like you said, it could be used if you have to pitch a tent. I'm like, damn, that's
you just you have one person hold the piton down, and another person come up and tap it into place, and then you step back, and they use the full, because a halberd is a 4 foot to 2 meter long pole. So they just use the massive amount of force you can get behind that to sledgehammer the piton into the ground. And now that tent is not going anywhere. And it's really efficient. And in combat, like, if you miss with the axe, you can just backswing with the hammer. And now you basically hit somebody with the equivalent of a giant mace.
Yeah. But so something that is just literally the equivalent, still while very cool. 25 people left. That all they had left was pretty much a standard issue police weapon. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what the Sigmar was like. We'll just hold back all the enemies of the Empire with halberds because we can outreach them, and halberds are very useful, very flexible weapons. But yeah, to me, like, when fantasy town guards show up, they should be showing up with halberds.
Mm-hmm.
Across the board, they should be showing up with halberds because that's the most commonly issued weapon in the high medieval era, especially when you get into high medieval era and people are starting that transition period from levies to purely professional military men at arms. Halberd is the most common weapon because it's easy to make. You only have to give the guy one weapon, and he's basically covered for most of his needs because he can do a lot of things with that one weapon. But anyway, there were only 25 people left standing inside, but they had managed to hold back 100,000 orcs. So this tells you that if you can deceive the orcs into thinking they can overwhelm you with just brutality, they will try. And so long as you can keep convincing them to keep trying, they will keep going and won't change their tactics.
Okay, because that was one thing we left out last time, or at least that I can recall, was it was, unless you had, the equivalent of a nuclear bomb, it's kind of hard to defeat orcs. But now you've given that story, it goes, okay, you have to deceive them. There are ways to defeat them. They're not like this invincible thing. They are very...
There were so many orc bodies that you could walk across the moat around the city without getting wet. You could have siege towers roll across the bridges of the bodies without sinking. And you no longer needed siege towers because you could just climb the corpses to get to the top of the wall. That is how you beat the orcs. You convince them that just one more rush, just one more attack, just one more time will break you.
Right, and by them thinking, because there's a certain mentality, the one more time can work, but if you don't, without getting in strategy, yes, just one more can win, except when you think the complicated, if the enemy thinks the one more would do, but that then exhausts all their supply and energy, and if you can then hold on, once the it's the anime trope where insert shonen anime where they then give their all and then pass out. This is the equivalent of that, except they don't get the hero ending. They get you've exhausted all your energy, and guess what? Your opponent still stands.
So anyway, everybody, we're gonna take a moment. Go on Patreon. Seriously, it's also linked down there with the sign up form for the tabletop game. We need 6 more people to raise their hand and say, "Here's $1," and I will have enough money to commission Soren for a minor piece of artwork every week. And if we get 20 of you to say, "Here's $1," we'll produce a monthly poster that you can order for like $10. No questions asked. In the meantime, Ginger, we're sponsored by patrons. But
Yes.
if we had a sponsor, whose would yours be?
Well, I'm going to reuse the one because who did I do the law firm one on the last time? Because I'll do that one again.
Go ahead.
All right. So this one requires a little bit of a visual. So imagine you're watching, it's around 11 o'clock at night. All of the major stuff is not on TV anymore. And you get the really cheesy law firm commercials.
Oh, no.
Really bad graphics.
Like bad graphics ambulance chasers?
Yeah. Like where it's the... those graphics where you're like, even someone who even doesn't know anything about animation goes, that's a really bad model. That's a really bad human, it's that kind of stuff. But then you have a bunch of guys in suits going, "Hi there.
Okay.
We're Dishonest Dan and Co. Are you a rich person? Well, we're the firm for you because we specialize in publicly defacing someone that made you look like an absolute doofus. It's our specialty. We know exactly just how to bend the laws to make sure, even though that person is completely in the law, completely in the right, we'll know how to just drag that out in court. Dishonest Dan and Co. Who's your fake sponsor, Fee?
All right, so my fake sponsor this week, and you're all gonna love them. Ginger.
Yes.
Do you go to bed and your back hurts when you wake up in the morning?
That's technically a loaded question because I'm recovering from back surgery, but sure, let's go with it.
Good. So, your back hurts, and you just want a bed to sleep in.
Yeah.
We promise it's the most comfortable bed you've ever been in. We gave this person a free ultra deluxe $1,000 bed, so you will come buy our bed.
Oh, do I then do I have to then get it at the front door, and then do I have to then carry the heavy thing? Because if you have, do I then have the luxury of hauling that thing up the stairs to my bed?
Yes, and by the way, you have to order a frame for this very special bed separately because the frame you currently have will not fit.
Fun.
And, then you have to wait 24 hours for it to inflate itself because we sucked all the air out of it before we shipped it to you to make it space efficient. And the bed you actually ordered is not the $1,000 bed that we gave to the person who's reading this ad right now. It's actually worse.
Might as well have slept on the floor.
The sleepy, comfortable bed that you think you want. Because we're going to psychologically use things like sleep comfort and sleep number in order to make you think that bed is more comfortable than the bed you currently have.
Hey, thanks, beds.
I'm sorry. I've just seen like 6 people suddenly advertising a bed, and I'm like, they shipped you a bed. They sent you a free bed. And now you're telling me that it's honestly the best bed you've ever been on. I go look up the bed model that they ordered, and it's like $1,000 to $2,000 for that exact mattress, whereas the common one that everyone else is gonna buy is like $300. And I'm like,
Yes, which though.
and I'm like, I know better. I know better. I know better.
One should get a new bed every couple of years, no matter how good it is. Every bed has the living daylights out of it. Like my mom had a Tempur-Pedic, and this is not a put down on it. It was a great bed, but at some point I'm like, and it lasted longer than your average bed. But I'm like, even that has a shelf life because every day it is one of your most used items is your bed.
Yeah. You sleep in it for 8 hours. That's how that works.
Yeah. Well, actually, one of the things I found out this past weekend is that some science is saying no. While 8 hours is good, actually, what it should be is 10. Now, I can't. If someone says cite your source, I'm like, I can't. But it's interesting. It's like the more we learn about the human body.
Anyway, well, technically, we're
Okay.
not supposed to sleep continuously for like a long period. You're supposed to do like 4-hour increments.
Yeah, I remember like it's supposed to be like there was like for lack of a better term, Victorian area. You would sleep for 4 hours, do like light reading or something, then go back to bed, something along those lines.
Yeah, but like we've artificially trained ourselves just to sleep all at once. Anyway,
Yeah.
there's a lot of studies about sleep, and it's all conflicting information that you just stare at. But when we say orcs, I actually mean greenskins, as in all greenskins. So you have orcs, goblins, and squigs.
Which, though, on a related note to this, of what you're reading, to kind of tie in the sponsorship, do orcs sleep? Question mark. Because I know in some D&D is the perfect example where I forget if it's half elves, but I know full elves, they don't sleep, they meditate. What about orcs?
Orcs sleep.
Okay.
Orcs do in fact sleep. They're very paranoid about sleeping too, so they not only have bodyguards for orc chieftains or knobs or squad leader type people, but they also have to intimidate and convince their bodyguards that if their bodyguards even make a single wrong move, they're gonna wake up and murder them. So like orcs,
They're not very rested.
so like orcs will, randomly just like snap awake and murder one of their bodyguards just to prove that it can happen. And the rest of their bodyguards are like, is he really sleeping? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Fee, I like how this podcast is a podcast of like extremes. We go from halflings. Oh, that's a pretty cool life for the most part. Yeah, we make jokes about the pie war, but that's pretty cool. As I said, that'd be a pretty cool life to live. And then orcs, I'm like, hell effing no. Like if I was reincarnated as an orc, I'm like, I don't believe in suicide, but I'm like, nope, quickest way to end this one.
But yeah, orcs orcs are best described as physiology and orc society wise. It's best described as they are squabbling human 5-year-olds given magically enormous size, horrendous strength, and a variety of barbaric weaponry, and told they can do what they want.
Yeah, I remember the picture you showed me at the end of the Halfling episode of like this guy isn't spiky enough.
Yeah, and also orcs, like we said earlier, and I'm not going to go into too graphic detail because even the quote from the wiki is a little too graphic. Orcs eat anything, and if it has any meat on it, or if they can find a way to make it somewhat tasty, they will eat it. This includes humans. Warhammer Fantasy does not shy away from the fact that orcs eat people. Just not. I'm not going to go overly graphic with this. Just understand that human children are basically orcs treat human children the way we treat chickens.
Yeah, let's just say the way they treat people, and that way it's the part of the internet where you have your lewd sites, but then there'll be ones where like, hey, heads up, these are the red flag tags. Yeah, that's kind of orcs, for lack of a better term.
Orcs greenskins reproduces fungus. They produce spores over the course of their lifetime. They leave them everywhere. One of the things, greenskins mature, infant greenskins are formed underground from these spores and only surface when they're fully matured. There's actually just like orcs create like pits to like put the spores in and then rip them out of the pit, literally like ripping someone out of primordial ooze. And it's a fully formed, fully grown, mature orc when they're ripped out. They slap armor on them and they told them go kill stuff.
Now, okay, this is because my mind when you explain that, can you then, in theory, I doubt it could, but why? Let's go for it. In theory, rip one out prematurely and raise it to not be an absolute hellspawn,
Nope.
or would that
Orcs
not
have ancestral memories.
fun?
You can't raise an orc to not be an absolute hellspawn.
Okay, no, I admit I will always find those stories where that kind of happens to be fascinating, but good to know that's the kind of world this world is.
Unless,
Anyways.
of course, you purposely brain damage the orc before you pull it out of the ground, then, maybe.
But then you're dealing with a brain damaged orc, which is kind of a redundant statement.
I find it funny that an entire species, you can just say they're brain damaged, and I have a brain damaged one, and it's like, isn't that redundant? Yes, but that's the whole species. You have three types of orc. You have the common orc, which is the one everybody knows, has armor slapped all over them, carries a big, simple weapon for chopping, very brutish kind of guy. You have savage orcs, who are cavemen orcs.
Wait, so you take an already savage race and make them even more savage?
They don't wear armor. They don't use iron weapons. They have the intellect of the Stone Age caveman Unga Bunga.
So wait, it's the meme where it's like the orc goes, "I may be an orc, but at least I'm not a caveman."
Yeah, it's the meme. It's the meme where the orc goes, "I may be an orc, but I'm not that guy."
Yeah, exactly.
The heat from the desert badlands is said to have rotted their brains. They basically refuse to use iron weapons and armor. They show up with bone clubs and wooden spears, and they paint themselves in war paint that protects them from getting stabbed. And because their minds are so magically orky, it actually works sometimes.
Yeah, and from what little I know about 40K, the reason why red ones go faster is because they believe red ones go faster, and because of orc magic shenanigans, thus red ones go faster. There's the other one. It's 40K, but it still works. There's a comic of like two orcs, and one's holding just a bunch of metal, and he goes, "That's a gun," and the other one goes, "No, it's not." And the one holding it goes, "Yeah, I believe it's a gun," and then it magically turns into a working gun.
Yes. I will go over also the orkiness and how orc spellcasting works here shortly. The last type of orc is the black orc, who have darker skin, darker green skin with black splotches, or some of the even worse ones are just straight up their skin is black. And I don't mean like a black person on the street. I mean obsidian. Oh my god, it's the color of my microphone.
Oh, that okay. And please tell me it's not the not age well pygmies of tieflings black.
No.
Good. Oof. So what makes I'm going to call them the obsidian orcs different?
They're bigger.
Is that it?
They're just bigger. They're significantly bigger. They're significantly bigger, and they're stronger, and they are known to be armed to the teeth, and I mean that literally. They took that phrase literal. So they have armor so black orcs, their armor might actually be nailed or screwed into their body, so they can't take it off. They create iron overtures for their fangs and tusks, so their teeth have iron spikes all in them. So orc braces are more horrific than normal braces, and they carry every weapon that they possibly can. And if they see a weapon they like on someone else, they'll just kill them and take it. So it is not uncommon for a black orc to show up with 12 to 20 weapons across their waist and back.
It's the equivalent of the video game character where you go, how the hell can they hold all that? But they find a way to.
Yes. They will carry, at minimum, a black orc will show up with 2 choppas, several weapons from humans and dwarves and elves that they've pilfered, a stack of javelins, a polearm of some sort, a shield, and for absolute spite purposes, they'll have a greatsword somehow.
So, quick question while we're talking about this, you mentioned the body horror. Do orcs, is it mentioned somewhere, do orcs like have a higher pain tolerance than other races, or they don't care?
Orcs don't have a higher pain tolerance. They just tend to view the pain as a part of the fighting, and therefore, instead of experiencing pain like you and I do, when orcs are in pain, if orcs are in pain and fighting, they get they get endorphins from it. If orcs are in pain and it's outside of combat, they're actually in pain.
Okay, but it's the you know, I hate the shirt so fucking much. Pain is weakness leaving the body. Whoever wrote that never had to have surgery for pain. But anyways, it sounds like that mentality taken to the extreme.
Yes. Now we the next Greenskins subspecies is goblins, and there's a lot of different goblins. There's the common goblin, which is the goblin we all think about, the kind of short, pointy-eared, little guy that runs around and stabs you in the shin.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple.
Yep.
There's not a lot to them. It's just a goblin. There's forest goblins who are like the savage orcs of goblins. They live in forests. They use a lot of poison, and they ride spiders that are as big as people.
I'm starting to remember these guys, how it was ridiculous these guys are.
And then the forest goblins also nurture the big matriarch spider called the Arachnarok spider, which is the size of about 4 houses. And
Wait. So you're pretty, is it like more closer to your typical office building, or like
imagine a spider that's as big as a game developer studio walking towards you.
To probably give a better example, probably like a 747, or are we just thinking like
it's more compact than a 747, but same height profile.
So more like 737, for lack of a better comparison.
With an entire goblin village just stapled onto its to its chitin on the outside.
Okay. I'm now okay. Now I got it. Now I got an idea. Now I'm also picturing the failed Will Smith movie Wild Wild West, where they have that big mechanical spider.
It's kind of like that. It's
that, but not mechanical and actually a spider.
Yeah, and as fast as a spider. It moves. It's one of those things that's like, that's really big. It shouldn't move that fast, and your brain has to process for a second that it's that big and it's moving that fast.
Which is also very cool, because I mentioned this. I do like spiders. I think they're cool. So this is kind of a little bit cool. Just these goblins riding spiders. It's a kind of fun image.
You have hill goblins that are called greater goblins. They're from east of the World's Edge Mountains.
Okay, what makes them greater?
They're as big as a common orc.
And
they're tall and lanky. They're fast like a goblin, but they have the strength of almost an orc, and they kind of have the same skin tones as black orcs. So they're so a hill goblin will usually be treated with the same kind of level of, let's say, respect that a common orc gets treated with, whereas the rest of the goblins will get picked on.
Also, what's the average height for a orc?
Average height for an orc is about is about 6 foot, 2 meters. You know, slightly taller than a person.
So basically, a basketball player but buff is coming your way.
A basketball player as wide as a car.
Yeah, so basketball player and football player smushed into one, basically.
You know those long pole arms I was talking about called halberds? There's a reason why we use those.
Yeah, I can see why.
You have you also have the night goblins, and the night goblins are the one kind of goblin that orcs don't pick on.
Oh yeah, I remember these guys. Oh boy, we're strap in everybody. This one's gonna get interesting.
So night goblins are a strictly subterranean goblin that only come out of the subterranean when they have to or are extremely motivated to. And when they come out, they wear full body covering because their skin and eyes are extremely sensitive to sunlight. Now, night goblins are respected for two reasons. The first reason is they make the shroom beer, which is orcish beer, which to humans is so incredibly poisonous it's like drinking a cyanide capsule.
And now though, uh, because I remember you said dwarves have a very high poison tolerance. Could a dwarf, in theory, drink this brew?
No, it'll kill them. It is
Whoa,
fundamentally incompatible with non-orcish physiology.
Okay, gotcha.
However, the other reason night goblins are respected is because of what is called night goblin fanatics. Now, night goblin fanatics carry raw orcish shrooms with them. The thing that's used to make this shroom beer, but just as the raw mushroom. They also carry carts of giant ball and chains. Think like Chomp Chomp from Mario.
Yep.
And what happens is on signal, the night goblin fanatics will eat their mushroom. And it's like a person just did shrooms, meth, and crack all at once. They will turn around and pick up these person-sized ball and chains and start spinning them uncontrollably in a random direction. And for anywhere from 15 seconds to a full minute, depending on the individual night goblin's constitution to endure the adrenaline rush, they will spin, laughing and cackling, killing everything friend or foe in their way before their heart explodes and they drop dead.
Now, I might have asked this question last time we talked about this. Is there a way to make it where it gets them the buff without the dying, or is it's either it's a very
We don't know because we've never seen a night goblin just take a little bite of the mushroom. They just eat the whole. They either don't eat it or eat the whole thing.
So it's again, it's just, it goes back to the about elves with facial hair. We don't know because we have no proof otherwise. So it's the same thing. So in theory, if they, let's just say, ate a quarter of it, they'd probably live, but we don't know because no one's done it.
Because the night goblins are either no gas or lead foot pedal to the metal, and there's nothing in between.
Binary. That was the word I was looking for.
The last race of goblins who work with the Greenskins are called Snotlings. They're goblins that didn't grow right, and this happens so often that there are just hordes of them. They have the temperament of enthusiastic, uncontrollable puppies. They usually have to be managed by several orcs and goblins to get them to do very, very basic jobs like fetching and carrying equipment, and swarming people, or operating the pumpling snot wagon, which is just a wooden wagon that's the orcish equivalent of the train handcart, operated by tiny enthusiastic goblin puppies.
But again, this makes sense in you reap what you sow. You make a chaotic, life. You're gonna have chaotic things follow you, and I say chaotic for lack of a better term.
Yes, that's kind of how it works.
And just like there's no sophisticated orcs, and I said this before, but I'll say it again. I do like that there's been this trend of the past couple of years in D&D where people are starting to make what I call, in air quotes, human goblins. They are still goblins, but they are much more. You can have sophisticated goblins. You can have sexy. You can
Warhammer,
have all of this.
Warhammer doesn't have those.
Yeah, it doesn't. I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, it's full. There's no deviation. Straight. It is what it is.
Now there are two offshoots of goblins. that are not considered a part of normal greenskin society.
Okay.
The first one are called Goblars. It's really hard to pronounce. Goblars.
Okay.
They are goblins who are specially bred by ogres to act as ogres' pets and servants.
Oh.
They specifically have bluish green skin, have wider and fatter noses, and bigger ears, because they need to be able to smell the food to make sure the ogres will like it, and they need to be able to hear the ogres when they give them orders, or they get smashed.
Interesting.
The other greenskin is the evilest, vilest, worst creature in all of the Warhammer fantasy world.
What?
The Hobgoblin.
Oh boy, here we go.
Hobgoblins exclusively serve Chaos Dwarfs. They are not considered a part of Greenskin society. Orcs will go out of their way to kill and maim and destroy them on purpose.
This is the definition of even evil has standards.
And the reason they're so very, very evil, according to Greenskins, is because not only do they work with Chaos Dwarves and get paid money for a fair day's wage, they have a union.
I was going to say, oh, wait a second. This is going in a different direction than I thought it was.
They have a union!
Yeah, it's fucking go. My favorite goblin
Chaos
race.
Dwarves who mistreat them have to deal with Hobgoblin strikes.
God damn it. Hobgoblin stewards, hobgoblin business agents. Let's fucking go.
And I'm just like, this is why they're the evilest thing in the Warhammer fantasy universe. It's because they have a fucking union. And it's funny. The funniest part about this isn't even like a joke or a meme. No, this is taken dead seriously. If you go into a Chaos Dwarf city, the first building that is required by the Hobgoblin Union to be the first thing inside of every single Chaos Dwarf city gate is the Union office.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what?
I'm laughing, and as for those who don't know, I am an IATSE member. I'm a journeyman in IATSE, so I am picturing the IATSE logo, except because it's goblins, it's like painted with paint, so it's a little sloppy and uneven, but it still gets the job done.
There is 0 hobgoblins who live in Greenskin society, and Greenskins refuse to allow them any mercy or to become proper orcs again.
I'm just picturing someone being like, I'm a card-carrying or...
I'm a card-carrying member of the Hobgoblin Carnate Union.
Hobgoblin Union strong.
But the funny part is, the Hobgoblins have the best living quarters, because compared to orcs who live in like tents or the ruins of the people who they invade, Hobgoblins have actual buildings and tenements that Hobgoblins take care of and maintain. Hobgoblins are the best dressed, and I mean this. So like you see an orc walk in with all the armor and the spikes and everything all over him. A hobgoblin has his work outfit, has his semi-formal I gotta go meet with the boss, and a hobgoblin by union requirements must own a 3-piece suit.
I'm looking up hobgoblins right now. Oh, okay. I will always be team halflings in this world. Ugh, but these guys are getting a strong second place.
And the funny part is, like, they're goblin. When I say they're unionized, there are hobgoblin warriors who work for the Chaos Dwarves. They're completely untrustworthy. They'll backstab anybody to gain the upper hand or anything like that. But they're actually properly armored. In like,
Yeah, no, I'm looking just at just found an image Hobgoblin basic troops, and they kind of look very. I'll send you it just to make sure we're talking on the same one. That looks pretty well organized.
yeah, and they're the really well off hobgoblin unions. This is what their armor looks like. It's full Mongol lamellar. Like, straight up, hobgoblins have the best life, but they're also the most backstabby, untrustworthy, poison using bastards you've ever met, and they exclusively work for Chaos Dwarfs. And they have a union, and I'm just like, okay, that's a thing.
Are they without going into too much detail? Are they the only union that exists in Warhammer universe?
No, but
Okay.
but we'll get there.
Okay, no, we will continue.
Now,
and I like the aesthetic too that they have. But anyways,
the other greenskin subspecies are squigs.
mm-hmm.
There are 4 basic squigs, and then there are hundreds of specialized squigs.
Oh boy.
I'm
So
only going to
these?
go over the 4 basic ones in this episode and a couple of the specialized ones. If you guys want a full squig episode, I got to see some people volunteer for Patreon. I'm just being honest. Like, it will take several hours, if not days, to prepare a squig episode.
Well, okay, start explaining to me why there are so many and what at least these 4 you're talking about do.
So a squig is basically a head, 2 really skinny arms, a pair of legs, and a stomach. That's all it is. This is what they look like.
That thing. Ew.
This is what they look like.
Tree, can I pay you not for us to do an episode on this?
I mean, if you want to, but anyway. So you have cave squigs, which are the common squigs, the one I just showed you. Goblins ride them into battle or unleash them as hordes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And basically, the whole thing about them is that they will literally eat a person whole. Because all they are is a mouth and a stomach and a pair of legs.
Yeah, that doesn't that thing doesn't surprise me.
The next basic squig is the greater cave squig. These are the ones that are actually about as smart as dogs.
Okay.
Now
we mean actual smart dog, because I met some really dumb dogs.
I mean, like an actual smart, like show dog level smart.
Okay, can follow commands.
They're
go
high,
here,
yeah,
sit,
and they won't eat their owner. That's the important part. Is they're smart enough not to eat their owner. The basic cave squig will eat its owner.
I just picture some marketing campaign. Are you tired of risking it with a basic cave squig of eating you? Well, have I got a deal for you? This squig will not try and eat you.
The next squig, so the greater cave squig is about the size of a warhorse.
Okay.
And are ridden into battle as horses.
Well, of course.
The next squig, that's kind of the more basic one, is called the squig gaba, and that's because it's chemical warfare. It fires noxious liquids that not only are poisonous, but begin to evaporate and create clouds of poison gas.
This is the Geneva Convention wiki article is not finished. You can help by editing it.
And the last of the basic squigs is called the colossal squig. It's about
Let me guess, it's really big.
It's the size of a house. It's the size of a 3-story house.
Oh, that's big.
Some of them have been bred to be large enough that they can literally swallow a company of men in formation in one bite. And the ground they were standing on.
Well, you got to have that earthy undertone.
And night goblins are known to armor their colossal squigs by nailing plates into their flesh, because human cannonballs go owie.
Mm.
So those are the basic ones. Just some highlights for specialized squigs. You got the you got the and these are some of the more I'm gonna go over. I'm not going over the weird ones. Go over the nice ones. You have hair squigs that are basically squigs that eat hair so orcs can get a haircut.
I'm just picturing now an orc barber holding one of those. It's like, oh, what would you like today, sir? Just a little off the top.
You have the hairy squig for orcs that went bald.
Wait, let me guess. It's the opposite.
It's literally a squig that embeds itself, and in exchange for leaching some nutrients like a parasite, you get a toupee.
For the orc that has a midlife crisis.
You have the vaccine squig, which literally is used to eat the plagues of Nurgle, and it creates the antibodies and then injects them into orcs.
Oh.
And then you have the paint squig, whose literal sole life purpose is when an orc needs paint, the orc tells it what color it needs. The little squig concocts the paint inside itself and then explodes into a pile of paint for the orc to use.
That one really up cool until you got to the explosive part.
Those are the the wholesomest squigs.
Air quotes. I wouldn't even put wholesome. I'd put the least brain bleach of I think would be a better
The
term.
least brain bleach of term.
Yeah, no. You can't use wholesome for this. This is the least brain bleach.
There are hundreds of varieties of squigs. I'm not going over all of them, and I'm not going over the ones that require brain bleach right now. We would be here all day. But now, Ginger, we come to our next.
But I can.
Go ahead.
Right. I just want to say, yeah, I can see though how with just these basic ones you gave, I'm like, okay, this is a very utilitarian species, so I can see, I can imagine what else they could be used for. I bet I could make one up, and you could be like, no, there's a version of that.
There is also the orc equivalent of Leonardo da Vinci, who paints great orc pictures, and he raises hundreds of paint squigs to do it. And he goes out of his way to nurture and father all of the paint squigs right up until the moment he needs a color of paint. And then he asks them very nicely if they can get him that color.
Wait, so this is an orc who does this?
Yes.
Okay, see, this is a moment where I gotta pump the brakes. In a society of like all these creatures that, kindliness is not something. The fact that the word nurture and orc is used in the same sentence. Now, is he a joke character, or like is there actual lore beyond that on this?
I don't have a lot of lore and information. I just know that he goes around to war bosses and convinces them to let him paint or make effigies of them, and that's like all he does.
Okay, so this was a question I was going to ask them. Like, there has to be at least like one orc who isn't just an absolute like.
There is just the occasional orc. That's not an absolute insane toddler, and they're very rare and they're very weird.
But in this case, that weirdness is incredibly fascinating. I'm sure his paintings look like kindergarten paintings, but the fact that this, you've now created this, you have this character that exists in this society of absolute insanity, nurturing creatures, even though the creatures give up their life, nurturing them, treating them kindly, and then asking them in that moment very nicely to end them. So is still, for this kind of race, is kind of noble, I think is a good word to put.
Now, before we get on to Orc Part 2, where we talk about units and their leader and their unique people and their people who have big names for themselves, Ginger, what are you shutting me up and making me take your money for?
All right, so this week, as I've mentioned previous weeks, with my Steam Deck and enjoying all the things with that and using the Batocera Linux distro to do a whole bunch of retro games, I would love there to be, like we have with like Netflix, Amazon, where you can buy older movies and unless the Disney Vault, but I would like all video game companies, PlayStation, Microsoft, everybody, where it's like, look, you pay X amount for this game. Let's just say, the standard 60, which I think is still BS. It should be 50, but whatever. I I shouldn't have to go yo ho ho on a bottle of rum if I want to find, for example, I don't know, like uh co- not my favorite game, but it's a good example. Contra. I'm sure there's which is all the way back on the NES. And I should not have to do that. I would love to be like, here, I will pay, let's say Nintendo. I will pay Nintendo $60. Can I please have the ROM, which easily people have like made ROMs of all these games. So it's not like the companies can't be, oh, we don't have the technology. No, the technology exists to turn all these game files that somebody has into an ISO file or a ROM file in which, can be read. So, that's my shut up and take my money for this week. What's yours, V?
So, I'm going to be entirely honest. This stems from my new neighbors.
Oh boy, what do we got?
So, rather than them asking us to move our car, they just diagonal parked their SUV, and they're from Texas. They diagonal parked their SUV across 4 parking spaces, 2 of which weren't there, so they got towed. So my shut up and take my money is very simple. I just want a website that I can just post people who are double parked on, and then the tow truck just shows up.
Okay. I would also like this website because, like, while it's not as bad double parked, there's a particular town, and I'm going to call it out where I live in Vermont, called Hardwick. No one there knows how to park. Where they'll like, the scenario where this is where I don't have OCD. I have OCD tendencies where I'm like, it's not that hard to park in unless you have a really giant vehicle. Park in the middle. The reason why parking spaces are like that is so when you park the vehicle, you can open your door. We've all had to do that annoying, like, there's that one spot left, but because the 2 people, it's one of those one person parked bad, and then it starts this whole chain reaction. And then if you can get in, you then got to do that sideways scoot out just to get out of your car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, if someone is clearly double parked on purpose because their car and therefore they are that important, I just want to be able to take a picture of it, cite where it is, and a tow truck show up, and a tow truck company show up and be like, "This is mine now."
Mm-hmm. And I'm willing to bet on mine too to get at least end this on a good note. If like more companies did this, fine. Here you go. We're not making the system anymore. Here, pay this money and you can use your emulator or whatever. That's like free money for like so many companies. It's insane.
Yeah.
Like if just Nintendo did that, and like, because it's just annoying, like they plug their ears and going la 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 la. No, we can't release Pokemon Yellow. La 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 la. Yes, you goddamn can. If you type Pokemon Yellow ROM, you can easily find a version of it because it's like I think like a Game Boy cartridge was like a megabyte. Let's just say for argument's sake, I'm like, it's not costing you all that much, Nintendo. You guys would make bank if all you did was that, and you'd still own the copyright to it because someone's still having to pay to purchase it. So your copyright is still protected. So back to Orcs.
Back to Orcs.
So we talked about the painter. I was fascinated by that. Okay, do we then also have like the equivalent of like, oh my god, I was to say a chef, and my brain immediately went to Orc Gordon Ramsay.
Yes, Orc Gordon Ramsay. In the meantime,
Yeah.
we have orcs. And so we have orc units. And those come in varieties. So you have orc boys, which are just orcs with crude weapons, ramshackle armor, and it's your common orc that you're expecting to find. Remember those orc archers? They're called error boys. And they're your orc they're your orc archers who are supposed to be smarter than you.
Wait. Say that bit again. That last bit again.
They pretend like they're smarter than everyone else because they use arrows, and every other orc makes fun of them because they use arrows instead of close into close combat.
So it's just they're basically hipsters.
Yes, hipster orc. We have orc biggins, which are just orcs that are larger, wealthier, and high in status compared to all the other orcs.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like orc rich men.
Okay.
They like to make themselves out to be a big deal. They're not really a big deal. They're just heavy infantry. You have the savage orcs that I talked about who use like bone, wood, and stone weapons and
Unga
unga bunga. You have black orcs, which black orcs strictly refuse to fight in other units that are not full of black orcs. Black orcs are racist against other orcs.
So you basically, for scenario, if an orc wants black orcs, the black orcs only fight with.
They will only fight in a company of black orcs or by themselves.
Okay.
You have goblins, which are generally armed with spears and shields and used as cannon fodder.
Mm-hmm.
Nasty skulkers, who are goblins who specialize in sneaking around, who carry daggers and will jump on your back and try to stab you repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
You have the night goblins, who use a variety of poisons and actually are goblins with little swords. And then you have the fanatics, who look like regular night goblins until they pull out those shrooms and those balls and chains.
Now, this is okay. Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
You mentioned in the goblins. In my time when I played Magic the Gathering, oftentimes if you had any goblin cards, it had that same energy of like goblin catapult, goblin this, where pretty much the goblins are disposable. When did Warhammer Goblins kind of exist? And I mean, not in the world, but existing like in publication. I don't know the exact date, but just like a rough estimate.
What do you mean?
Meaning, like, okay, I say this because I'm wondering, like, did Magic the Gathering get the inspiration for goblins? So basically, again, in Magic the Gathering, if you ever play goblins, and you mostly play them in red because it makes sense, almost all the cards are almost every card will say some version of create goblin token, and then at the end of turn, goblin token goes boom. Or
I'm not sure who did it first, but I also know that like Lord of the Rings, like goblins, when you're talking about orcs and forces of Mordor, are used as cannon fodder, and that's way back in Tolkien's day. So I just imagine that goblins always in fantasy are just these little green fuckers that people use as cannon fodder or as mass casualty numbers.
Yeah.
The snotlings are put together in units as kind of tiny rabid dogs, or they get to ride around on their pump wagons, which is adorably horrifying as it sounds. You have the greenskin, quote, cavalry, which orcs don't ride horses, they ride boars. Like, you know, the kind of boars that gore people in European forests.
Yeah, feral pigs.
Yeah, feral pigs. They also eat them. Don't break a leg, orc boar, because you're dinner if you do. They have chariots that are pulled by these things, and the boars that orcs raise are huge. They're the size of they're bigger than horses. They're massive.
Jesus.
Goblins ride giant dire wolves, and honestly, the strategic simulation games, Warhammer Dark Omen and Warhammer Shadow of the Horned Rat, got it correct in that the wolf is a bigger, worse problem than the goblin. Goblins will use these wolves to pull their chariots. Night goblins ride the greater cave squigs. Forest goblins ride those giant spiders I talked about.
Yeah.
And then greenskins also have a variety of creatures who they have made pacts, alliances, or otherwise convinced to work with them. Trolls, which one of the horrifying things about Warhammer, trolls regenerate so quickly that it is said that non-flaming or non-acid based weapons will hack flesh off of a troll that will regenerate as fast as you can swing your sword.
Ayo.
They also hire giants who aren't very bright in the head, but are just what they sound like, giant. Like several story tall person who has big tree for club. Granted, giants are susceptible to things like crossbows or well-placed cannon shot. They have their Ragnarok spiders. We talked about those. The squigs, they can unleash in herds of squigs. They also have what's called a mangler squig, which is a squig that a orc shaman has taken two big squigs and fused them together to create a mindless berserk machine that's just hungy.
Oh boy.
And the last thing, Warhammer considers wyverns to be degenerates of dragons because they lack the forward walking limbs, and also because wyverns are not very smart. Dragons are smart. Wyverns are kind of stupid. So orcs will tame and ride wyverns. Notice I said tame. They don't breed them. They will instead sacrifice hundreds of orcs to get a single wyvern egg for an orc warlord. And then they'll use orky-infused magic to forcibly raise and grow them quickly so that they can then be used as a mount.
Yeah, patience is not something that I would put for the orcs.
Orcs have rock lobbers, which are kind of primitive trebuchets that are built off of dwarven grudge throwers and Bretonnian trebuchets ideas, kind of sort of stolen. Technically, they're primarily used for sieges. They're really inaccurate and really bad. But that's okay when you have like 500 of them.
Yeah. It's accuracy by volume.
They have a primitive version of the ballista called the spear chucka. And then they have the orc unique weapon called the Doom Diver Catapult. Goblins
Go on.
are given pointy hats, primitive flimsy wingsuits, and hurled out of this thing like a giant slingshot.
I thought, it's going to be this. Yep, I was correct.
And literally, they're just suicide bombers.
With a pointy hat.
With a pointy hat. When orcs capture gunpowder, they will give them gunpowder, but orcs don't understand what fuses are. So the fuse might cause the goblin to prematurely explode mid-flight, explode at an appropriately devastating time, or, in one particular unfortunate case, an orc war boss died and his entire wall was destroyed by infighting because one of these Doom Divers went off after battle while he was helping loot the battlefield.
Wait, but this is the one where maybe I'm getting confused, where they feed them a potion that has a little bit of a timer and then they chuck the goblin.
Oh no, they'll just feed them like an entire barrel of gunpowder mixed with shroom beer.
That's the combo.
So
that sounds like a more deadly version of an Irish car bomb.
Yes. So we have now the famous orcs, the ones who made a name for themselves.
All right, here we go.
First, we have Gorbad Ironclaw, who rode the largest war boar ever bred. And he's called Ironclaw because at a certain point he replaced his entire hand with metal.
Okay.
His deeds include the slaying of a human emperor and completely wiping an imperial province off the map by burning every city, town, and village. Solent had to be reestablished after his war.
This has I'm sure you've gotten this in Hearts of Iron 4. At some point, it says during one of the campaigns, it says another set of maps now rendered useless.
Yes, another set of maps rendered useless. His siege of Null, which is the imperial city where they do a bunch of research for how to make better gunpowder and cannons and technology, is considered one of the most legendary cunning orc strategies ever conceived. He managed to break the city, which is separated by a river delta. So there's a river delta that runs through the city that separates the city into 3 sections.
Right.
He managed to break the city in 3 weeks. And when the city desperately tried to retreat across their great bridge, destroy the bridge, and leave the orc, and so on the other side, the orcs managed to build new bridges while under fire and inflict massive casualties on those that were shooting at them in order to storm the other side of the river.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. That's definitely impressive and worth getting a story. If you thought your job was stressful, try building a bridge while someone's shooting at you.
He even used what is now an extinct breed of squig called the balloon squig to raise vessels from the bottom of the river, repair them so he could use them for storming the other side of the river. He drove a species of squig to extinction to refloat the riverboats.
Which extinction bad, but I'm assuming this kind of tracks on my theory with orcs being dumb in books but like smart in war. That's pretty smart to like have to be able to think, first of all, to think float boat, and then to figure out, but then to go, well, how to float boat. That's pretty smart. I'm not gonna lie.
And when he killed the Emperor, he did it in the most fantastical, crazy way possible.
Are we talking Rube Goldberg, or are we just talking just in the moment, just so ridiculous? But go on.
Kool-Aid Man.
Go on.
He took a half dozen wyverns, flew them so high you couldn't see them in the middle of the night, before crashing them through the roof of the Imperial Palace. And every effort that was made to like barricade or hem in the wyverns would just shoulder their way through a wall. Finally, the Emperor managed to beat back the beasts, but his personal wyvern seized the Emperor and ripped him in half in its jaws. Only by sheer tenacity were they able to recover the Warhammer and prevent it from falling into Orcish hands. However, because the orcs were so delighted with all the chaos they were causing, they forgot that their orders, the orcs on the wyverns forgot their orders were to actually open the city gates. Yeah, they didn't finish the siege of the Imperial capital, and he was eventually hunted down and slain by a dwarf army that had come to reinforce the Imperial capital and prevent it from falling. And his final battle is called the Battle of Blood Peak, as they tried to get through Blackfire Pass, ended up being slain. Every orc in his wall was slain at Blood Peak to the man. The dwarves allowed not a single orc from his wall to live.
Okay, wow.
The next big orc is called Azag the Slaughterer. And he's called Azag the Slaughterer. He wears something called the Crown of Sorcery. which is actually a phylactery for a lich. That basically the lich influences and controls him to some degree, and gives him and gives Azag the ability to use the winds of death magic, which is he's the only orc that can use magic outside of orcish magic, which I'm going to talk about when we talk about our last famous orc. And he died when he and the crown had an argument. And during this argument, the Grand Master of the Knight Order of Knights of the Panther slew him while he was having this argument with himself in the middle of a battle.
Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself.
His argument with himself was so bad that the wyvern he rode got involved in it, and he was basically having a three-way fight between himself, and his wyvern before the Grand Master managed to kill him and the wyvern both.
Can wyverns talk?
No, but his wyvern was intelligent enough to communicate with him because of the Crown of Sorcery.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot more sense now.
By the way, the Crown of Sorcery, we're gonna talk about who's behind the Crown of Sorcery. His name is the Lich Lord Nagash. He's one of the most horrific beings to exist. But we're not going to talk about him now. We're going to talk about him when we get to the Tomb Kings, which is what Nagash is a part of.
How much brain bleach am I going to need for them?
I'm just going to read off Nagash's titles. The Greatest Necromancer, the Great Betrayer, the Usurper, the Undying King, the Supreme Lord of Undeath, he who shall not be named.
Fuck on it, JK. Fuck you.
Yeah, no. By the way, Nagash was called He Who Shall Not Be Named in 1996. Fuck you, J.K. Rowling. Warhammer did it first.
Yeah. Fuck you as a person, but also fuck you in terms of literature in that sense. Anyways.
We have Grimgor Ironhide, who is the biggest, the meanest, and the greatest orc to ever live. That's not his quote. That's every orc that talks about him.
Oh, okay. And that's saying something.
First off, he doesn't always allow orcs to join his warbands. He picks and chooses who gets to.
Oh, okay.
He is only... Anytime he is defeated, he is cunning enough to get away.
Huh.
He has fought battles with the Empire. He has fought battles with Kislev. Katarina the Ice Queen was only propelled to prominence and allowed to unite Kislev when she finally beat him back. Because
keep it as
because it's,
you said beat him back, not defeat.
Because it's so rare that he suffers a defeat that just beating him back to the mountains was considered a great victory.
Interesting.
He's fought Skaven, and he is so insane. So he ended up inside of Clan Moulder's stronghold, which is called the Hell Pit. And it's literally just a pit down into the earth, all the way down to the mantle where there's nothing but magma. And Moulder uses this pit to make abominations through a combination of bioengineering and warpstone. Think of it as like primitive genetic engineering, or everything that Resident Evil tries to tell you the T-virus can do.
Yeah, which is a lot of bullshit. I've played enough Resident Evil to know the bullshit they use that for. But yes.
So Grimgor got tired of losing his orcs to their abominations, so he told all of his orcs to wait, and made them sit at the top of the Hell Pit. And he went down by himself. And the Skaven unleashed, first off, hordes of slave rats against him, and he slaughtered them by himself.
Of course.
So they started sending in their warriors, their clan rats, and their big storm vermin. He slaughtered his way through them. So Throth the Unclean says, all right, take a rat ogre. He killed the rat ogre in one hit. And a rat ogre is a rat that has been genetically engineered to be as big as an ogre. So then they unleashed waves of rat ogres at him. He just slaughtered them. They threw massive rat abominations that when you kill them spawn out hundreds of slave rats all at once ready to kill you. He slaughtered his way through every one of them. And the only reason he left is he got bored.
But I do find that interesting, at least from a strategic standpoint of like his men, we can talk the interesting bit about, for lack of a better term, like honor of like he goes, okay, no, enough of you have died. I'm going on my own.
So when Throth the Unclean, leader of Clan Mulder, finally said, okay, fine, I will risk my most dangerous, crazy, over the top, one of a kind, unique experiments to kill this damn greenskin. He marched up there, and Ironhide had just gotten bored and left. Resulting in Throth releasing his deadly mutant creations that he'd taken out of their cages on the Empire and Kislev, resulting in a 20-year war to drive the Skaven back.
I'm just still focusing on the idea of him like this is the energy of like, the party's not interesting anymore. I'm going home.
And then in his first battle against the ever-chosen of Chaos, Archeon, the big guy who's supposed to end the world, he kicked him in the nuts and beheaded him. Then he fought him a second time.
How'd he beat him the second time?
He beat his ass bare-fisted, beat Archeon into the ground, and just before he killed him, spat on him, said, "I'm the best," and left.
Now, is this, if I remember from the first time we did this version has two different endings.
So the original ending is he did all that and he just leaves. He's proven his point. He goes over the World's Edge Mountains to go find something bigger and better to fight. The second version of this fight, Archeon, after Archeon's had his ass just absolutely hammered by this orc, stabs him in the back while the orc is leaving. Like, Archeon lost the fight and then backstabbed him.
Yeah, I like the original version much better.
I'm sorry. Like Archeon isn't even like a villain I can hate and like to hate him. He's just bad. Over the course of 6 fights with Ironhide, the only reason he eventually kills Ironhide is because Ironhide tells him, you're not worth my time, and tries to leave.
I just have the image of this orc he doesn't even use weapons, just fists, which is just so like.
Archeon eventually beheads Ironhide while Ironhide is physically choking him to death. And the only reason he beheads him is because the Chaos Gods gave him the ability to call his sword back to him. So he called his sword back to him, Mjolnir styled, and beheaded Grimgord as a surprise attack in the back.
Wait, is it? Yeah. And the dude who got Kate, that's the dude who like keeps getting. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I'm just like, you guys could come up with a better Everchosen, please, because this guy got his butt kicked by an orc 6 times, and on the 6th time he only killed him because he got a cheap shot.
Yeah.
Then we have Grom the Paunch, who is a goblin.
Okay.
Grom the Paunch is a goblin who ate a troll that was technically still alive.
Now, if you want to continue on this, pause, rewind the previous one. Is this in the version where he doesn't get stabbed in the back? Didn't you say, or am I confusing with someone else, where he had this great victory and then he's just disappeared?
Yeah.
No one knows what happened.
This is Grom the Paunch. Grom the Paunch is the man who just disappeared.
Okay, so sorry, continue.
So Grom the Paunch ate a part of a troll, and it causes him to grow and regenerate at a fantastical rate. He is a massive goblin. He is the largest goblin to ever live, by far.
That's pretty big. That's a big boy.
And Grom the Paunch is, he does stuff because it's fun or funny. He marched across the lands of dwarves, and he just wants stuff to eat. He just wants stuff to eat. That's all he wants. He besieged the Empire. At one point, he turned Altdorf into a racetrack because he was bored with the siege. The Imperial capital, he just turned the outside of it into a racetrack because he was bored. He is the only person in history to successfully invade the Elvish Isles.
The ones that previously on a previous episode that we had the failed attempt
That we had
at.
the Norskin failed attempt at. Yeah, he successfully did it. And he destroyed several of the keystones that keep chaos out of the Elvish Isles and keep the vortex of power that controls the flow of magic around the Elvish Isles in check. Very important things. He broke a few dozen of them. They're irreplaceable. And also, if a single one fell, it's bad. He broke a dozen of them.
Now, did he break them to cause chaos, or did he unintentionally break them?
He did it because it was funny. Because he thought that the elves being upset about it was funny.
Oh, okay. So it was okay. I can see. Okay.
He burned an elvish city that had stood for 10,000 years, with architecture and peerless sculptures and fountains and all this wonderful stuff. He burned it to the ground because the elves pissed him off because they wouldn't give him good food.
That's of reasons to do that. That's not a bad one.
When the elves finally beat his wall off of their island, they didn't kill him. He just left.
You didn't win. I just won't admit defeat.
And I'm going to quote him because no one knows where he went. But he went out past Lustria and the New World into the Great Ocean and disappeared. With the
now, if I remember,
and this is his quote. He is considered, by the way, the most well-spoken greenskin to ever exist. With the enigmity of defeat, a not-so-distant memory, I, the proclaimed king of goblin everywhere, hunger still for both things to satisfy my need for glory and my mouth. In time, Grom's War shall rise again and return to claim what is the biggest prize. Let us go forth and rebuild. And he went out into the ocean and no one saw him ever again.
He's not confirmed dead, just no one has seen him.
There have been reports of sightings of Grom all over the world, but no one has been able to confirm it. And there are just not enough witnesses in these reports that survive to confirm it's him.
Which, again, I think I mentioned this is that I find it fascinating. It's like this idea of him going, there is still something greater for me to achieve. I have not achieved it, which is in any form of fiction, whether it be fantasy or sci-fi or modern, is so cool. Is so interesting. It's not just like, oh, I have saved the world, or I've insert generic anime dream here. But he's still fighting for something. It may not be the most ethical thing, but just fascinating that he's still trying. He's still on his journey to him.
Yeah.
To him.
Next we have Skarsnik.
But also, one thing before we go on, I do, in the art you sent me, I just like the dude who's just vibing by his feet.
Yeah.
Like the other guy.
We have
one.
Skarsnik, who's the most cunning goblin warlord to ever exist. He is considered the one true king of the 8 peaks, which is this mountain area that the dwarves made this really cool fortress in. That has 8 separate peaks. That the dwarves made into the equivalent of dwarven Mount Rushmore. And what happened was he went off on a wall to get some special mushrooms. And while he was gone, the orcs at 8 Peaks said, wait a minute, we're following a goblin. Fuck that, we in charge.
Okay.
And on top of that, Belagar Ironhammer, who's a dwarf, who is supposed to ancestrally be the king of Eight Peaks, tried his crusade to go retake the mountains, and on top of that, Queek Headtaker, who's a Skaven, who wants the secret that's underneath Eight Peaks for the Great Horned Rat, got involved. So now you have a 4-way fight between the greatest, smartest goblin warlord shaman to ever live, his rebellious gits who told him to fuck off, a dwarf, and a Skaven, all fighting for the same place.
No, without going a quick pause. Do we know as like readers what's actually the secret under there, or is it just a big secret and we don't know?
The secret is never named or revealed.
So, just for clarification, do the characters at least know it, or is it even a mystery to them?
Belagar Ironhammer knows what's there.
Okay.
He's the
cool.
only person who does. He does not even share it with his dwarven queen, what lies underneath there. But it is the secret that allows his dwarven ancestors to rise up as spectral wraiths that keep their mind and sanity and fight alongside him. So he knows what is the secret there that does that. No one else does. And no one ever finds it. Because in the end times, this battle comes to a head, and everyone who was competing for control of Eight Peaks lies dead.
Oh, okay.
This civil war will have no winners. All of them die. Skarsnik also has what is considered the most intelligent cave squig ever, because his cave squig can talk.
Like you can actually have a conversation with
it. It understands basic words and can talk back. It has a basic conversation. But Carrick Eight Peaks will result in the death of an orc war boss, the smartest, most talented goblin to ever live. His talking squig, his rebellious gits, Queek Headtaker, the biggest, baddest Skaven storm vermin to ever live, and lastly, Belagar Ironhammer, Prince and King of Carrick Eight Peaks, as well as taking to his grave the secret of how to raise dwarven ancestors as spectral wraiths that keep their sanity and become ancestor avatars.
Wait, but I know we'll dig more into that, but I always find that so in fiction so stupid, where it's like the secret dies with me. Great, that's a real dumb idea.
Well, the secret died with him because he's not the only one that died. The books that told how the secret worked were burned. The people in his immediate family who had any understanding, who could put the pieces together, much like you have to have like 40 or 50 different specialists to be able to build a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
Well, if those 40 specialists can't do it on their own, they need to come together and do it and apply their different skills. Well, if all 40 of them are gone, you can't build a bomb. No one even has a remote clue of how to build the bomb.
Oh, okay.
So
it's still, I'm still not going to retract my statement, but at least I can understand somewhat, but still, but anyways, I could rant on that all night, but go on.
And then we have the last orc, who's the orc grave prophet, Wazog. Now, orc shamans, orc magic works by orcs being extremely orky. So again, I'm going to harken back to the original Warhammer Fantasy strategic simulation games, because they capture some of they're really bad games. They're honestly terrible as far as video games go, but they capture some ideas about Warhammer Fantasy extremely well. One of them is how magic works.
Yep.
So shamans are orcs that can tap in to the natural energy that orcs generate to create magic of the Wa, or Wa magic. And you have goblin shamans who lead the little Wa, and orc shamans who lead the big Wa. Now, Goblin Shamans use spells like Itchy Scratchy, which makes you itch and scratch all over. And it's really useful as like a distraction for a bunch of people in the middle of battle. They use stuff that like enhances the tips of their blades to be able to penetrate armor. And they use stuff that makes orcs either sneakier or faster.
Okay.
The Little Wah's big ultimate ability, though, is the Orcish Bad Moon. It is believed by the Altdorf College of Magic that the Orcish Bad Moon is an incarnation of the asteroid that supposedly brought the orcs to the world of Malice. And it's literally a temporary spectral moon the size of a village that appears with a big angry mouth and vicious looking eyes and proceeds to try to eat everything in front of it.
So the moon from Majora's Mask.
The moon from Majora's Mask shows up and tries to eat you.
Oh, I've been playing that game this week, so yeah, that's why I used to have comparisons.
And then the Big Wah uses magic like to headbutt, where the orc shaman thrusts his head forward, throws the energy of the magic in front of his head when he does it, and it creates this arc of energy that basically is like everyone getting headbutted by an orc. The Gaze of Mork, where he stares at you really hard, and it creates Cyclops-style lasers. And so a lot of the Big Wah's things are direct attacks.
Yeah,
And so he has the Gaze of Mork, and then he has the Foot of Gork, and the Fists of Gork.
Wait, hold on. Let me take a guess on this one. He kicks somebody, and they go really far when they get kicked.
No. So the Fists of Gork make his fists the size of an orc, and he punches people with them.
Okay.
The Foot of Gork, however, causes a massive magical foot to appear. That's actually Gork the god himself's foot. And he stomps whatever's under his foot.
Kind of like the foot in the Monty Python TV series.
Yes. Kind of like the foot in the Monty Python TV series, or like you as a kid when you're playing with your Legos and you decide to stand up and be Godzilla for a minute.
Oh, okay, that energy, gotcha.
That kind of energy. So Wazag has supposedly rediscovered orcish magic that has that was lost to time. Some of this orcish magic includes turning one of his rivals into a squig.
Ooh.
He also supposedly has visions of Gork and Mork and is considered the emissary of Mork. Sometimes Gork, but usually Mork, and is considered the once and future seeing Git. He supposedly sees the future for the orcs, and he's the closest thing the orcs ever have to a diviner. And so he will show up to other orc Wahs, and he's a savage orc too. He's caveman orc, but he will show up to other orc Wahs and point at an orc and go, "That one's the boss now." And anybody who opposes him, he unleashes all of the magic of Gork and Mork on them.
Gork and Mork, which are the two
orc gods,
right?
And then after they have made that one the boss, he just leaves.
So he just goes in there, causes more chaos, already in chaos, then leaves.
He goes in there, causes chaos, picks a new leader, and then leaves.
Does he like enjoy this, or like?
Yeah, he's just having a good time. His one unique actual combat spell is called the Hand of Mork.
Well, okay, I'm going to be wrong, but now I want to guess. Either it's going to be one or two, or he makes his hand really big and pimp slaps somebody, or is it the same thing like with the foot, where just suddenly this big hand comes down from the heavens and goes smack?
Okay, it has the same power as the big hand, but it's only the size of a regular orc hand. It appears in front of one particular person, and it pimp slaps them and then backhands them. That's the entire spell. And
Him slap the spell.
that is orcs. Do you have
The-
any questions?
Yes, because I want to reiterate, because we discussed was you told me if you play it tabletop style, typically your average Warhammer tabletop one, you win, unless there's special conditions, you win by basically making the other side no longer have any units left. Except when you play orcs, can't you technically win by blowing up all your units first?
Yes. Yes. So one of the editions of Warhammer had it where orcs got extra points for kills, and this included self kills. So you could show up to a fight and win by self-inflicted kills. That is literally one of the things you could do. And there's nothing anybody could do about it. Because you could just be like, it doesn't matter who dies, so long as somebody dies.
Which for orcs makes so much sense.
Exactly. It makes far too much sense for orcs to sometimes just be like, screw it. And that was actually a strategy for a while for orc players was, you know what, it doesn't matter who dies, so long as I keep killing every single action, every single turn, no matter what. So that's what they did.
So I'm guessing they do a lot of, without getting too much into the rules, like, okay, so you mentioned, like, fill goblin up with gunpowder and shoot. Could you then are hoping for, then I assume, a dice roll when you do that. It rolls on whatever dice or however it's determined, where it then goes kaboom too early, and thus you get points because there were kills on the field, even though they're yours.
Yeah. Basically.
Okay. Well, for random, these are now just going to go into random categories. What is the average life expectancy? First question. Average life expectancy of an orc, and what is the oldest an orc can get before they die of old age?
There has never been an orc recorded in history to have died of old age.
Then what's the oldest an orc has died at then?
I don't have an answer. Usually orcs die in combat or by accident. I do know that there was one particular piece of comedy in which an orc died because he slipped on spilled halfling stew, and his bodyguard went to catch him and forgot to put down his choppa first and impaled him.
Oh, well, yeah. The one could assume maybe, but again, I know it's such a the painter dude, I'm assuming probably would have a long life expectancy because he kind of by nature avoids combat, so I assumed he probably had a long life.
Yes and no. I mean, Wazag's lived for a long time. No one's sure how long Wazag's been around.
Okay.
We just know that he's been around for a while.
Okay. I'm trying to think of anything else about them that we've kind of covered all the interesting topics regarding orcs that I can think of, and I think probably any questions I had. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was an interesting one, and I'll admit I'm kind of, in a weird way, I'm kind of glad we re-recorded this one because this one was a whole lot. I need a whole lot less brain bleach for this one.
That's because we didn't go over the squigs.
Yeah, and there's other things we kind
and
of avoided.
I also skipped the horrible things that orcs do to humans when they're captured.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Though on a fun note, I actually looked at, I think it was one of the videos of this. We've gone over 400 views.
Yes, we're doing surprisingly well. So everyone, please again, Patreon, hit the like button. And next week, we will have a guest. We're going to be talking about lizard men. And the guest is going to be Remlays from 40K Theories. He will be over here with us next week, in which we're going to have a good old-fashioned discussion about lizard men and meat robots.
Like, automatons are actual robots.
Neither. They're just referred to as meat robots because that's how they act.
Oh boy, that'll be an interesting one.
It's all, I assure you, Ginger, it's all a part, and I'm going to quote them, of the great plan. I assure you, it's all a part of the great plan. Every single thing lizard men do is a part of the great plan. There's a plan in place. I guarantee you there is a plan. I just can't promise
Okay.
that anyone's interpretation of it is correct.
But there is a plan.
There is a plan. I just can't promise that anyone's interpretation is right.
I can deal with this as long as there's a plan.
There is a plan. Probably. Definitely. Certainly. By the way, lizard men came down in pyramid-shaped spaceships. Anyway, hi everybody. Make sure you hit the like button. Bye.
See y'all on the next one.
Anyway, Patreon, sign up for the Warhammer fantasy tabletop game for live stream on Wednesday nights, and give Ginger a hug. He deserves it.